I was reading a comment and of how a guy said something to a girl, and the mom was there, and the mom brushed it off and saying, "Oh, he gave you a compliment," even though the compliment was kind of, well, obviously and sexual in nature. You wouldn't say that if the father was there, because you would get your ass probably handed to you. Hopefully. If you got to pull out a calculator and do some equations to figure out the mathematical difference between someone's age and yours, and you're coming at them with explicit adult opinions about how they look or what you would do, I feel like that is sick. That is disgusting.
That's entirely
that is absolutely appalling, and I can't stand by that. So this is a hill that I'm gonna die on. This is not a Democratic or Republican or pride or pro-life. This is not, no. This is just an issue of being a moral human being. And these are the guys who are over here trying to complain about, oh, children shouldn't be around drag queens and reading time and all this. It's like, you know, what you're doing is equally as bad, but you don't want to tackle that. You don't want to argue that. All right. My name is Malcolm Eugene.
We're Robertson here.
This is Social Sabotage. So I'm going to put this on the screen right here. I saw this post on Facebook, and it really kind of struck a chord with me, being a male in modern society. But it was a post by Open Discussion on Facebook, and it says, "Dear women, how old were you when older men started approaching you with sexual interest?" So you may read that and think, oh, maybe 18. If they're really fucking pushing it, 17, maybe. You go into the comment section, and it just absolutely destroys you. No intro, none of that. We're just going to dive straight into this. You can just scroll down, and these are some recent things like 12, 6, 11, 12, second grade, 10, 11, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. Things like it's normalized that this kind of taboo things are going on. Like, I feel like as a man, we don't realize these things are going on.
I think we know that we're aware of it's happening, but since not enough people are speaking about it, like you said, it's becoming kind of a societal norm.
Yeah.
I get it. 50, 60 years ago, when life expectancy was a lot lower, wars are going on. I'm not saying that's acceptable.
50, 60 years ago, 7 is still too
that's
young.
That's still too young, absolutely. But that's still not excusing behavior. It's still a poor behavior.
Yeah.
But times have completely changed, and for people to be, I don't know if these people
still do it, and you notice.
I don't know if they're speaking out about it, or if it's family members per se, or who's doing it. But you're right. There needs to be more light shine on it, because I understand that there's this fascination with some guys where it's like they want younger women.
Right.
I understand. There's benefits to it. At the same time, to approach a woman at 5, 6, 7, 8, regardless, if they're under 18, it's kind of
it's
it's
very weird.
Even in 19, 20, it's kind of weird, especially depending on their age, obviously.
You notice it in a lot of, I call it old school player groups, and a lot of older men, they just don't give a fuck. And that's really, really sad and damning, because you're stealing the innocence from someone who you don't even know. Just leave her alone. Leave her the fuck alone.
I mean, they're taking advantage of. Sometimes if there's not a father, per se, figure in their lives, or maybe
it's not even that.
Or even, well, not just that, but just to think that it's acceptable to approach somebody like that and offer them whatever it is, or solicit them. I guess it's solicitation or whatever. I
was reading a comment and of how a guy said something to a girl, and the mom was there. And the mom brushed it off and saying, "Oh, he gave you a compliment," even though the compliment was kind of, well, obviously and sexual in nature. You wouldn't say that if the father was there, because you would get your ass probably handed to you. Hopefully. But it's fucking sad how normalized this stuff has been. And this video is more to draw awareness to that, is kind of watch what you're saying to women, especially if you don't know their age. If you're having questionable thoughts, you probably shouldn't have those thoughts. You definitely shouldn't voice those thoughts. It's sad. It's sad to see.
Yeah, it happens a lot commonly. It constantly happens until we have to hold other people pretty much accountable, other men accountable. If you see it, say something. Like we know with jokes and stuff like that, we get it. But when you know it, we know body language. You can tell when somebody's uncomfortable. You can tell that it's bothering somebody, even if they're laughing it off.
body language. They are 7.
Yeah, well, still,
they
I'm
are
saying,
7. Like, don't make those kind of comments towards a child.
Okay, of course, age and mind. Don't. That's just weird.
And these are the guys who are over here trying to complain about, oh, children shouldn't be around drag queens and reading time and all this. It's like, what you're doing is equally as bad, but you don't want to tackle that. You don't want to argue that.
You can't state one and then show hypocrisy or spate or try to omit other aspects of it. There's we know that there's people that are sick like that who do it. And, sorry to the women that have went through it.
Right.
God forbid they've been actually touched and harmed in many ways, traumatically or whatever. And now other people, they're dealing with the issues. Their family has to deal with the issues. Maybe they've never healed from it. Maybe it's something you can never heal from.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of trauma because it's, even if it's not physical, it's a mind thing. So these thoughts are now starting to be embedded in their heads at a younger age. Like,
I just don't like that. I don't want all men to get lumped in it. Y'all don't like to be generalized. All men shouldn't be generalized to the same thing.
And it definitely shouldn't be. But how common it is, it's absolutely scary. It's appalling.
It is, and I mean, especially if there's a parent or parents are aware. Aware of this happening, or the kids. I mean, it's very rare that children don't speak up and say something, or say, hey, even if they don't know what's going on.
Sometimes they don't understand though.
Well, I know, but still, asking a question or something, or you see something's different with your child, ask these questions. Pay attention. Don't just be living in your phones.
Right.
Sit down and actually have dinner. Have a conversation with your kid. Notice when they're being more quiet. Notice some of the signs. And sometimes kids are great at hiding things. I get it. But I think if you're more aware of what's going on with them, more in touch with them, more of a family unit, you can see when there's signs, when there's something wrong with them. If I see something's wrong, or I can tell there's something's wrong, I got to speak to her, whether it's involving, whether it's another man or whatever, family member, whatever, it doesn't matter. If there's something going on, we need to address it. That's not acceptable, because if you let things ride out, we all know that the world is very bleak.
We are in deep. When it comes to men and boys, we're taught to suppress our emotions, this, that, and the third, and then we end up in trouble later on in life, mentally, sometimes physically. With women, it happens at a much younger age. They're getting these things from older people, and it's not even. I'm not going to say that it would be better coming from someone their age, because someone their age shouldn't even know about this kind of stuff, in my opinion. But the fact that it's coming from people multiples times their age, if you got to pull out a calculator and do some equations to figure out the mathematical difference between someone's age and yours, and you're coming at them with explicit adult opinions about how they look or what you would do, I feel like that is sick. That is disgusting.
That's entirely
that is absolutely fucking appalling, and I can't stand by that. So this is a hill that I'm gonna die on. This is not a fucking Democratic or Republican or pride or pro-life. This is not. No, this is just an issue of being a moral fucking human being. Dude, this is like, it's frightening. It's sickening.
It is,
because let's look at it like this: if you were to have a daughter, and you're not there, and she being approached by some dude who's like 50 about how she looks in shorts or whatever the fuck.
It's disturbing.
And you're non-confrontational, but would you not feel confrontational at that point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'd be upset, about the whole situation. I would be, but there's got to be other ways to deal with this to themselves. Where there's got to be a way to figure out who these people are, these individuals, and you gotta hurt, other than physically hurting them. They had to feel good, but we need to deal with where this is stemming from.
But what's sad though is it happens so far up, and so this is where accountability becomes very, very difficult. Because I hate to bring up the past, but if you're looking at like the rumors and things when it comes around Jeffrey Epstein and the elites, and kind of the same thing, it's so fucking sad.
Yeah. When power does that, when you get power and influence and a lot of times there's people with him too. He was very crafty in the way that even if you're not involved,
right,
with anything, you were still present.
Right.
So now he's blackmailed you essentially.
Yeah.
So even if you know that he's doing something wrong, you've seen it or you heard of it.
Yeah.
You may have not seen it, or, like I said, or participated.
Guilty by association.
Exactly. So he's gonna drag you right on down because he's got all the records of you being there. But I agree, it's disturbingly sick how often it's happens all the time. It's currently happening to somebody. So I like I said, it's up to people to start recognizing those signs, paying attention to their kids. Some of the signs aren't there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
People are like, we're taught to, even women nowadays, they're taught to kind of internalize a lot of things. Especially when you get into the age of social media, you got to play a character and be this positive person, which we've done talks of positivity. We've talked that into the ground, but it's becoming harder and harder to authenticate feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. By that same token, you have to also understand when you need to get help.
Right.
Recognizing when you yourself need help. If you know there's something that happened to you, or you're starting to see a trend of when you're dealing with the opposite sex, especially, that there's this hostility. Where is it stemming from? Where do the issues come from? Is it not saying it's always necessarily your fault, obviously,
right?
Because we're not responsible for the traumas that happen to us. Like
right.
we always say here, we're responsible for what we do with it. At the same time, you notice that things are changing. They're losing interest in things.
Right.
They're pulling away from you. It just there's things there, and a lot of times we, especially as guys, you don't want to seem like you're prying.
Right.
You want them to work it out. At the same time, it's like, as guys, we're problem solvers.
Right.
We want to know what the issue is, and they don't always want to address it that way. We want to see what it is, address it, and face it, and deal with it.
So it is up to us men to hold other men accountable. 100%. And when it comes to like mothers, let's try not to normalize it and make it seem like, oh, he's just being Uncle Joe, or he's just giving compliment, because I feel like it does a little bit more damage than good, especially in the long run, even if it's not your child. It's just, we got to start to set those boundaries again. The lines are being crossed, and they've been being crossed for a very long time. So with that said, my name is Malcolm Eugene. This is something that really, this bothered me, obviously. Yeah. So hopefully you guys are able to see it, point it out, and put it to an end. So with that said, subscribe to this channel.
Appreciate it.
So with that said, we are outro.